Hello, everyone. I'm here today with Kjerstin Braathen. And Kjerstin, you are the CEO of Norway's biggest bank. And what I would like to talk a little bit about, it's how we now see that digital journey. It's not only coming, it's actually accelerating. And what we have seen during the last year is that all the plans we actually had to speed them up because things are happening much faster. But I guess in the banking sector, because we are often looking at the banking sector, you were quite advanced already, but way before COVID. So have you seen any changes also the last 1.5 years?
We have seen tremendous change, and I'd say we see it the same way as you were saying. COVID has done one thing, I think maybe paralyzing the world and us for a few weeks in some senses, but then after that, just accelerating all of the trends that we saw also happening before COVID. Maybe one of the really sort of key takeaways is the visibility and the value of being digitized, because Norway has done well from an economic perspective. And one of the key reasons is the maturity of digitization and technology and behavior in Norway. But in very brief, what did we see? Of course, the fact that we have basically all of our customer activity digital enabled us to continue just doing about our business when COVID hit. But also we saw a tremendous scaling in the need of certain products. For example, deferrals for those who had to leave their jobs temporarily or permanently. Before COVID, we processed 400 applications a week for installment deferral. When COVID hit, we had to process 400 an hour.
Wow.
Without
That's
technology
quite a change, yeah.
and without digitizing the processes, it wouldn't have been possible.
Wow, that's
and
impressive.
Online shopping as another example. I think Vipps 180% growth in e-commerce over the past year, 50 new customers every day, SME customers booking onto the platform, seeing that they need to have digital payment solutions, otherwise they won't be able to trade. So, and I could go on and on. I think this has been a pure accelerator. So not only adapting to new opportunities or a new situation, but really seeing that we have to scale them
Well, then
up.
we see things the same way. But just on that point, actually, and what is inspiring, what is quite inspiring, and also what we admire when looking at DNB, it's more the cultural part of digitalization. One thing is the technical part, but you as a kind of incumbent bank in Norway, the size you have in Norway, by far the biggest in Norway, it seems like you are able to challenge your legacy culture with always kind of taking one step ahead of others. So how do you do that? You have the legacy, the size and all that, and then at the same time you have the startup mentality.
We try to, and I'd say I like to give the compliments back. You say that you look at us. I think we look at you. I think telecom as an industry are even more advanced than banking. Maybe the capital markets part came at the same time as opening up the infrastructure, because this is also what has happened in banking. It starts with both players having the technological ability and seeing the opportunities that we as an incumbent didn't see a few years back, but also regulatory opening up of infrastructure. These are things that drives innovation. But and I'm sure we have a lot of the same learning points when it comes to sort of delivering the best value to customers, not trying to do everything ourselves. But I like your entry to the question, because it is about people and culture. And this is probably the biggest change, and in some ways the most challenging change. But I can try and comment a little bit through talking about our core values. And the first one is being curious. And we really worked hard to try to onboard the whole organization to the overall strategic picture. We all need to have the burning platform because we need to move fast. Being curious means really being customer-centric, curious about what the customer needs and can get from others, working through partnerships, acknowledging that we're not the best at doing everything, learning about startups and startup culture, running an accelerator, as you also do, partnering with Startup Lab. And then the second value is bold, because you don't only need to look and see and be curious, but we also need to do things that that challenges maybe our traditional incumbent way of thinking, such as really working structured also to scale the ability to innovate. Learn to fail fast. I mean, failure in banking hasn't been popular. Probably still isn't.
Be careful now.
But you know, when you're in the business of taking risk, and you're such a heavy regulated business, that is sort of what is pulling you in the other direction, which means you need to push hard and really show the importance of failing and killing your darlings, and also do unpopular things. I mean, listening to the pure minority, those who are saying a different thing than all of the experienced people who have been used to how we're doing it. And lastly, I'd say, because it's also important, the third core value, which is responsible. Because like you, I'm sure we need to take the responsibility for where we are. We are a large player in the market, so we need to experiment on some things, but we also need to think it through on other things, because there are large values at stake for customers and owners and others.
It's actually quite. I didn't know about your values the way you described it, but I was thinking about our own values when you talked.
Yeah.
So you said be curious. We say always explore.
Yeah,
same thing.
Same thing.
You say be responsible. We say be respectful. Same thing.
Yeah.
So there are quite some commonalities.
There are commonalities, which is not so surprising. I think we see the same trends, but and I think an important element of the journey has been to really onboard the organization to the understanding the strategic picture, and then really empowering back down. Once you own the strategic picture and you see the challenge, I'm not the one who knows the best solution. The people closest to the customers are, but they need to own the strategic perspective that we do as a company. But really the fuel and the pace, I think, comes from empowering the people close to the customers, close to the action and the markets, and really where it really
But
happens.
when you started up with the great success that Vipps is some years ago, you did that in kind of a separated part of the bank, didn't you, from day one? And then it grew from there. So how are you doing this in practice? Is that the way you're doing it? You're kind of spinning it out and taking it back? Or?
You know, Vipps was actually started in our personal customer piece, but as a separate group and as an agile team, and sort of built from scratch. But it was within one of the key business lines.
Okay.
But we have an entity. I have one guy around my table in group management that has the mandate to challenge the rest of us when we think traditionally. So we have one entity. In the beginning, we called it new business, and we learned after a while that was probably not a good idea, because then you get new business and old business. And we actually want to find the interface between where the existing business and the new business really can create something different. Because I think if you take it too far out, then you also lose your competitive advantages as a group. So we have created a group of, and an entity today that is called Payments and Innovation. Payments probably the entity that, or the part of our market that moves the fastest. And they are also driving innovation standards, structures, making sure that our portfolio contains not only incremental but also transformational stuff. We have a new technology lab that are responsible to explore and experiment and test out new technologies and use their know-how on banking to see opportunities. Excellent technologists. They built a fridge that would order back when they were empty on the beverage. And okay. I know it doesn't sound a lot like banking, but items from that learning was actually used into the compensation scheme that we used for businesses during COVID. So having that competence in-house is just so valuable. But they don't sit in the thick of the business every day and have a lot to defend. So our thinking has been to take it a couple of steps out, but not 100% out. But I think as probably as you do, it's important to acknowledge the natural natural sort of showstoppers for disruptive innovation that does exist in an incumbent company.
Bringing it back to technology, kind of the popular way of saying, talking about technology in the future, I call it the perfect storm. When 5G comes together with Internet of Things, comes together with AI or analytics, that's where we see that all businesses and even the public sector will really change.
Yeah.
How do you see that in the banking industry? How important are these new technologies for you, and how will banking also change in the coming 2, 3, 4, 5 years?
I think I've said something like we're probably sort of 10% into the journey of the transformation of banking and the financial industry. And these are the key technologies that will continue to change us in the future. We're early days yet, I'd say, overall. I mean, we do see artificial intelligence and we use it. Is it artificial or is it machine learning in our chatbot technology? We use it to apply on our data to work more intelligently with our customers. So increasingly linked to data, artificial intelligence will run all of our decision processes, I think, yours and ours. And of course, a huge theme in banking is data-driven credit. Everything we do today is based on data and historic experience. Yeah. And on top of this, you can apply artificial intelligence. Exactly. And Internet of Things, you can tie even further data in. And then I guess the jury's out. What is going to be the main vein in our lives? Will it be economy? Will it be telecom? Will it be electricity? I mean, there's a lot of clusters that will compete with taking an important position, I think, in people's lives.
You talked about partnerships going forward. We also strongly believe in partnerships. We think that days where you are controlling your entire value chain, that's gone. And a lot of innovation will actually happen in partnerships going forward. But you will also see partnerships where sometimes you are a partner, sometimes you are a competitor in the same partnership. And talking about the two of us, we are a customer of you. At the same time, you have started your mobile business as a competitor.
And we are a customer of you.
And you're a customer.
So it goes in every direction.
So how do you see that? It sounds kind of quite strange if you think back historically.
It sounds strange, and I think I think this is one of the potential advantages that Norway can build on, because I think it sounds even stranger when you talk about it outside of Norway. Yeah. The banking industry has quite a strong tradition in Norway to cooperate also amongst each other to establish common infrastructure. But I think this has been taken to a new level now in the past 5 years. Yeah. And we often use the word frenemies. Yeah. But we have that tradition with us, that we cooperate with other banks, that we compete with also every day. But there's so many commonalities and there's so many areas where we don't compete, where we can benefit from working together, that I think the ability to communicate across and actually improve, become better together. We need that in order to compete against the rest of the world.
And why do you think that you said that Norway may have an advantage? Why are you saying that?
I think it's culturally something that we have a stronger tradition for doing than others, and the banking and the financial industry is one thing. I mean, from day one, or not from day one, it's hard to say, but for many years, Norwegian banks have cooperated on creating a standard infrastructure. This is actually an important key as to why Norway has been able to digitize early. Yeah. This and the public sector. Yeah. Because we have been able to scale, and this is what other countries struggle with in a different manner than we do. You mentioned Vipps. Vipps is owned now by more than 100 Norwegian banks. Yeah, and there's a lot of interest into this from Europe. Yeah. And they're like, how is this go-to-market model? How can you work together on this? And you turn around and then the next second you're competing. Yeah.
And the login solution that the government is using, or as I am using as a citizen in Norway, it's actually owned by the banks.
It's owned by, that is in Vipps as a company.
Exactly.
Yes. So, but I think, I mean, that ability to, I think the evolution and the development revolution is going so quickly that nobody can make it alone. So actually the ability also to cooperate with your competitors and actually manage that game in a way, I think it's just going to become more important.
So in a way that smaller countries like Norway, of course we are small in the big,
Yes.
big world, but smaller countries actually have an advantage. There are small distances
so.
between businesses. There are small differences between ourselves and the government, educational institution, and so on. Because that's where the partnership is being created.
It is. And I believe that in particular, the phase we're in now, adding sustainability, ESG, climate on top, we have to master an extremely rapid change, and we have to move so many parts of the value chain at the same time that there's no way outside of cooperation, which gives an advantage to smaller entities. So we should be humble in Norway. I think you're a global company with presence in so many countries, and I think there's a lot to learn, but there's also something to contribute with. Absolutely. I think.
I have to end, Kjerstin, with a more personal question. How has COVID and the kind of digital tools that we all have to use during the last 1.5 years, how has that changed your leadership style or the way you manage the big bank?
I mean, in so many ways, because communication is such an important part, at least of leadership, the way we work and the way I work, and I know you also do, and the ability not to physically meet people and create that energy and engagement has transferred all of this into new areas. Or new tools. So I guess I used to spend 30-40% of my time on the road. Last year, none at all.
Exactly.
But there has been advantages as well. I mean, for the first time, we've launched a strategy simultaneously to all of our 10,000 people. And usually that sort of goes in waves, and it's never the same story, you know, exactly. that ends up at the end of the distribution. So that was very much appreciated. I think people are extremely creative and innovative, but I think this pushes us in a direction of what I would call modern leadership, because modern leadership isn't about physically being together. It isn't about control. It is about interacting also in the digital space.
Exactly. And do you think this has changed now permanently, or we will go back to how it used to be?
I don't think we'll we'll certainly not go fully back to where we were. But I think the jury is out on how much of this learning we're actually able to bring with us. I think that requires work and willingness. We need, because I think it's easy to underestimate the human ability to just slide back in.
So to find the mix, the balance.
It's a mix. We've said that we will have people working from other locations, but the office will still be a key arena to build culture and competence.
No, we see it at the same time. That part you can never do digitally.
That's true.
Thank you so much for a very interesting conversation.
Thank you for having me.